This is the big one. The bulk of the show is going to be here. Marvel Studios is in shambles, guys. Shambles.
Naturally.
Big, bold words. Shambles. It's over. They've had.
Why isn't Jared like biting your head off?
I want to walk in. I'm too busy thinking about how much this discourse makes me want to walk into traffic.
Like, I mean, like you say that, and it just gives me like his image. Well, I've seen him. I hate him. Is the graphic design is my passion with the grifters.
Yeah.
And like they have to have. I don't know why they still have this infatuation with Brie Larson, and they morph her face into having tears because apparently she was part of the downfall and all that.
Well, now they've turned on Armin Vellani, haven't they?
Yeah, apparently.
Like she said that one thing where he's like completely innocent. It's like, oh, she slams fans. It's like, shut up. She's literally a kid. Leave her alone.
All right, y'all. Let me learn you something big here. Let me learn you something here. Big F. To quote The Last Jedi. There was a pandemic. It upended all the movies. And then whenever they were getting back on their feet, they found out one of their most important actors who was going to carry the franchise for a while might be a horrifying monster. And then after that, the writers and the actors went on strike. So they couldn't work on anything.
And the directors.
Yeah, but...
So now, while everything is happening, while they had a money-hungry, unhinged CEO say, I don't care if it's done or not, put it on Disney Plus. Some shows were maybe not great, and a movie or two had some questionable CGI, and apparently that is enough to torpedo a gajillion-dollar franchise. This is also stupid. I can't stand this. I physically get angry when I remember that Variety published this article. It wasn't Doomcock. It wasn't Geeks and Gamers. It wasn't Screen Rant. It was Variety.
And I do want to point this out. I find it hilarious that 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, suddenly all these arguments you just brought up, the pandemic, the actors, all that on strike. Everybody used that as an excuse of why Marty Scorsese's latest film bombed. That was all brought up, but he can't have Leonardo DiCaprio doing the press rounds. He can't do this, he can't do that. But you can't apply that same sentiment to a comic book film. I get it. You chose who you want to back, and you're going to bend over backwards to make any excuse. I see what they're doing. But this whole notion of we can only apply these things to this one thing and not the other is so stupid, because what pattern have we seen since the strikes started and there couldn't be any late night shows? You couldn't have Iman Vellani and Brie Larson on Jimmy Fallon, where you would get those viral clips of them just being happy that would sell the film to casuals. You couldn't get them on morning talk shows. That's affected every single TV show and film in the last 7 months. But it's conveniently ignored and applied to only the thing that people want to hate. And I think that's disingenuous.
Because the Shambles came out after the strikes. Come on now.
And they're applying that too, being like, yeah, but they could have done the advertising. What? The day after the film came out? They did. But you don't have the 90-day lead up to that, which is a slow cascade that they build up towards. It's genuinely insane to see this, because I went back and looked at old articles right before the Avengers, where Avengers was estimated to make only $80 million at the box office, and people were pointing to the fact that Thor and Captain America and the Incredible Hulk were bombs, and that this film would be the end of Marvel Studios. That was in trades. Looking at it going, Captain America, Hulk, and Thor have doomed Marvel. And what happened? This isn't anything new. It's just now so prevalent because, as Jared brought it up, you have every person out there, every grifter, everybody's running with the same thing, and it takes the majority of the consciousness and the mentions, because every other video, if you're in that bubble, is, Marvel Shambles. Scrolls. Stop what you're doing. Marvel is in shambles. You scroll again, same thing. Like, it's become the new thing. Like, it's just blows my mind that this is where we're at. And they've taken, like, what, 3 missteps, maybe? Maybe 3?
Well, and that's not even taking into consideration, like, you know, again, going back to that just dreck of a Variety article, you know, there's barely any mention of the things that have been universally praised.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, and granted, like, the article came out before Loki season 2 wrapped up, but like, they were talking about the finale in some capacity. So like, Loki season 2, universally loved. Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, incredible, beautiful story.
Guardians 3,
Guardians
God
3,
tier.
exactly,
Yeah.
God tier. Like, and again, it is fueling this incredibly, like, almost like goldfish brained pattern of, you know, new thing comes out, I don't like, the whole franchise is dead. New thing comes out, it saved the MCU. Maybe you just didn't like that movie, and that's fine. But like, this bizarre need to have it be emblematic of some great decline or great return. Like, I am telling you, the moment the Infinity Saga wrapped up, people had already made up their minds that they weren't going to be into the new stuff. Mm-hmm. There was this from the ground nostalgia. And again, and I don't want to say, if you don't like the current Marvel output, if you don't like this, if you don't like that, I'm not saying you're wrong for disliking it. This is all subjective. If you don't like it, you don't like it. That's perfectly valid. But the way that, like, the media landscape is built around justifying your opinions about a piece of art with some type of subject or objective fact, is how we get here. Like, it took 0.3 seconds of new Marvel post Endgame being, oh, it fell off after Endgame, it fell off after Endgame, it fell off after Endgame, and now we're retroactively trying to build up, oh, this is the part when the MCU was bad so that it can come back. You know?
Which is like, weird, right? Because straight after Endgame, we had WandaVision, and that thing was huge.
And same with Loki and Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Black Widow's box office. Even on digital release, they made over 100 million opening weekend on just digital purchases. Like, what are people talking about? Like, revisionist history is insane with this whole concept.
Yeah. And again,
so, you know, it's what, like Shang-Chi, Eternals, Ant-Man, the Marvels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The ones that have probably like not done what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, they
the 30 things we've got since Endgame,
the things that didn't perform as well as they wanted to, they still made money, you know. And I don't understand the, like, this weird idea that everything is going to be Endgame. This weird, like, I don't like, oh, well, it didn't live up to this, it didn't live up to that. And like, all the box office is down for everything. It has been consistently. There have been a handful of movies that have been Marvel pictures that have like that have made it feel like pre-pandemic box office. And it's been, and granted, it's been stuff like No Way Home or Multiverse of Madness that, like, on some level, part of it, the allure is, oh, it's multiverse, so you get to see that thing you knew and liked. But like, those they also have like a story to tell within those that isn't just the hand-wavy nostalgia bait that like people love to ascribe to the MCU when that's what The Flash did. You know, we're like, we're putting the sins of other franchises on the MCU for some reason. Like, so much of this is just so silly. And I hate going to bat for the Walt Disney Corporation all the time.
Yeah.
But it's flagrantly dishonest. It is using this bizarre cherry-picked framing that it's impossible to divinate any actual analysis from. Mm-hmm. It's nonsense. It's horseshit.
Yeah. No, I agree. There is nothing here. Is it not where it once was? Yeah, it's not. But guess what? That took 11 years to get to that point, and it also took 2, maybe 3 movies a year slowly. But then everything got messed up after that. And as we pointed out, they would already be Literally, right now we would be anticipating the Kang Dynasty to release in 2024 because Fantastic Four was the one that leads into it in the old slate. Like, that's how far removed we are from everything that happened. So it's going to take a little bit to gain back a fan base. But also remember, new kids, new people are going to discover these MCU properties. There's a new kid every day, you know, and they're going to jump in now, or old ones, because they're going to see it on their brothers or sister shelves or whatever, or their dad's shelf, and go, what is this? They're going to find something to enjoy with it. Like, the whole Marvel's Shambles things, I've seen people literally act like it's over. Like, there's never going to be a new fan again, and the old fans are all leaving. I'm like, that is such a short-sighted, idiotic approach to look at anything. Like, it blows my mind.
That's the problem with everyone's thoughts have been consigned to like 140 characters for like 20 years.
That's true. That is
whatever
true.
the hell it is now. Like, you know, there's nuances.
Well, it's that, and it's also the rage bait, man. Like, there's such a, again, like the fact that there are publications in the trades that read like Screen Rant or like Fandom Menace outlets.
Yeah,
you know, and it's like, I'm sorry, again, the refusal to acknowledge the pandemic, the strikes, Chapek, and also the very real Fandom Menace element here. It's why channels like Star Wars Theory, for example, are so prevalent. You know, you random fictional Star Wars fan that we're going to create here, you know, you don't like the newer movies. And part of it is because it doesn't quite feel like the Star Wars you knew.
Yeah, that's always the key.
You don't know how to voice that. You don't know how to voice that. You're not even sure what you dislike. Now, part of that, and again, I'm not saying if you don't like the newer stuff from either Star Wars or Marvel, you're a bigot, but you know, there is such a thing as implicit bias. That is a real phenomenon. That is a real problem. So you go to people who start talking about why those implicit biases are actually the reason why it's bad. That it is because of these inclusions. It's because of things that don't matter. And now we're going to apply these double standards where this character that we all love did this thing and it was awesome, but this new character who is some type of marginalized community does the same thing and it's bad. You get that weird, you know, amalgam, and then you have people who like to keep the more mask on approach, like a Star Wars Theory, and then you start working your way down the pipeline, and by then you're in full nerd QAnon thinking Doomcock actually has inside sources at the Walt Disney Corporation.
I mean,
you know, every Doomcock video is a Q drop. There's no difference.
And that's the thing, you know, you talk about the Marvel fan base has found itself in the same place. Like, I just saw the Marvels, right? In theaters, and there was typical people I know, and there was a guy who, again, I seen at all the premieres, and after he was like, I hated that movie. And I was like, oh, why? Like, this is the first one he's ever said he hated. And I just genuinely wanted to know why. I wasn't going to like question anything. And he goes, well, it was good, but I just hate them pushing the agenda. And I was like, do you mind which agenda? And he goes, just look at the movie. Why does Miss Marvel need to be female? And I didn't even bother to respond. I was like, yeah, I kind of get what you're saying. I was like, because her name is Miss Marvel? Did you want a guy to be Miss Marvel so then you can be even more upset? Like, he was legit he needed a reason to hate this film. Even though he just said he liked it, but then he hated it because Miss Marvel was a woman. I don't get it. I think people are now just throwing random things out there just to try to sound like their favorite YouTuber. You know, just throw out some shock jock thing out there and hope it sticks. You know, like, I mean, and you know, I want to say I'm not entirely innocent of this, but I always prove my point when I was like, I don't like The Dark Knight as a Batman movie because it's not a Batman movie. And everybody was like, I kind of see what you're saying, but it's wrong. And then everybody suddenly agreed. Spider-Man Far From Home is a bad movie for Spider-Man, but it's a Spider-Man movie. I was like, it's just the same argument, like, but you're not proving a point here because that was a Spider-Man movie. Like,
Yeah.
It's now just
Yeah.
become parroting the dumbest thing and just hope nobody questions it and believes you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it.
And there's a lot of like putting lipstick on a pig, especially with the Marvel situation. Like, again, I don't think there's a lot of people who, you know, the MCU in phase 4 and onward has become more diverse, you know, and has been telling stories from different walks of life and different perspectives that, like, I'm sorry, I'm not saying, just like with Star Wars, if you like the newer stuff, if you don't like the newer stuff, you're inherently a bigot. I'm not saying that, but you can't tell me that those implicit biases aren't at play here.
Yeah.
There's no effing way that's not part of the equation.
Mm-hmm.
So again, to not even acknowledge that, to not even acknowledge like the loud lunatics who are thumping their chests about this, who are affecting public opinion. You know, Nia DaCosta is getting, you know, trashed for like the whole, oh yeah, and then she left halfway through to work on her new movie, which A, she said wasn't true, and B, where was the outrage when Spielberg did that with Jaws and Jurassic Park and Schindler's List? You know,
well, actually, it was true with DaCosta. It's just taken completely out of context.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Is that like it? But devoid of that context, it reads like nonsense.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
and it's like, wow, like I can't believe the director. Y'all aren't doing that with white dudes. You aren't doing that with white male directors. You're not. We're not putting this bizarre scrutiny.
Well, that's it. You can also make the argument for that. It's people these days think they know how the industry works.
That's another factor. Yeah.
The whole Dunning-Kruger effect, right? You think you know something, but you have no experience and you don't know. You know, I have no idea how it works. I know some bits of how it works.
Yeah.
Someone comes out and says like reshoots. Like, cool. Yeah. Every movie has reshoots. But you know, you go back a couple of years ago and reshoots was literally the devil word. Like you couldn't say reshoots without panicking people, right? Like it's literally just a case of that.
You know, if you take like for an example, like if you take like an animated series or a movie, and people think that everything is planned out and everything is, you know, going smoothly, and you ask a lot of animators and they'll pull the wool over and just say that, yeah, half the time we're not really doing anything because no one knows what's going on or who's doing what, and everyone's just arguing half the time. Nothing gets done until we got a crunch. Oh well.
Yeah. There's a reason why people say, like in the industry, it's a miracle that any movie gets made.
Yeah.
It's not smooth sailing. Hollywood is actually a shit show. Always has been, always will be. It's a lot of people. It's never going to be smooth. There's always going to be some stuff. And the whole Nia DaCosta thing, she literally had to go because of scheduling.
Yeah. And they made that clear.
It's as simple as that.
And like,
yeah,
it's, I don't know, like this whole Marvel Studios Shambles thing, it's just coming at them from everywhere now. It's the new buzzword. It's not going to go away. And make no mistake about it. Remember, Age of Ultron came out, did 60 million less than the first film. The next 2 years were Avengers is a failed brand. From the people who are backing Batman v Superman, not even delivering a quarter of what they told the studio execs it was going to deliver. Like, what? You know, like, come on. It's, this whole thing, it's the new thing. You say Marvel Shambles, that's the new Marvel bad. It's just evolved.
Yeah. You know, I don't even think people are inherently bad if, with the whole thing of, oh, you know, once Endgame's done, I'm jumping off the ship, right? That's completely fine to do.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to do that, that is your prerogative. I know so many people that have done that, right? But it doesn't mean anything at the end of the day. It doesn't that doesn't change the actual quality of anything coming out. Like good or bad, whatever. Like you can, if you don't want to be here anymore, you can just jump off. It's totally fine. That's down to you.
Exactly. Nobody's and that's another thing. People act like people is forcing you to watch this and talk about it. Bro, you don't have to talk about the Marvels if you don't want to. The only reason you choose to talk about it is because you're grifting for the clicks. Like, that's...
Yeah, so no one else is talking about it, so why should you? Like, don't worry about it.
Wild. It's wild. But the worst thing is some of these people's fans, they don't realize they're being taken advantage of. So,
no.
It's kind of shocking, but it is what it is. So I think we've said pretty much all we can say really on the Shambles, haven't we? Anything else?
I think so.
Yeah, yeah. It will come back round. It would just take. If Kang Dynasty comes out here and absolutely slaps, people are going to forget.
Yep.
And we're going to be right back to where we were with Infinity War and Endgame.
But
and
people are going to forget it up until Ironheart gets a 6 out of 10, and then Marvel Shambles.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Uh-huh. So
it's time's a flat circle. We learned this in